Hey guys, welcome back to PT Breakfast Club.
There's the AI-generated Yetis. Good morning. I'm back. I missed you guys.
And we're back.
How
are your travels?
Travels were great. Did some family stuff in Oklahoma. And then did some work stuff in Roanoke, Virginia, which someone asked me, hey, have you ever been to Roanoke before? And I said, absolutely not. And then I walked into the hotel we were having the conference in. I was like, oh, I've been in this hotel. So that's when you know you maybe travel a lot, when you can't remember being in the hotel that you are currently in the city that you thought you'd never been to. But I've been there before. Yeah, for a wedding.
Very nice.
Yeah. All right. So this came across in the group chat just a couple of days ago. An article out of California. I feel like there's a lot of things going on in California these days. And a court ruled saying that nurses... And I guess effectively they're issuing the ruling for healthcare providers at large. But in this specific case, the ruling came that said nurses can't be called doctor in California, even if they have a doctoral degree. The federal judge ruled that the nurses with doctorates in California can't actually use the title because it could be confusing. They cited a survey from the AMA showing that 39% of patients mistakenly believe that DNPs are physicians. I will say that survey is from the AMA, which is completely comprised of physicians. So, I mean, we bring this up. We don't really talk a lot about nurse practitioners here, but obviously the parallels between the physical therapy profession and the decision there are pretty close. Where are your thoughts on this issue? This comes up This comes up as a trend every once in a while and then goes away.
Let's just throw out a few, I think, potential facts before we get into our opinions. So the DNP, the degree, correct me if I'm wrong, the DNP. So is it a doctor of nurse practitioner? That is the degree?
I believe so.
Okay, so the degree has doctor in it. It has the word DOCTOR. It has the word doctor in it.
Correct. Doctor of nursing practice.
Right. Same thing with us. Like I'm looking at my degree right here, Doctor of Physical Therapy. It doesn't say Master of Physical Therapy. It doesn't say bachelor's, associates, whatever. So if it's in the degree and the physical therapist, or in this case, the nurse practitioner, assuming neither of them are suggesting that they are a physician, none of them are saying I am a physician, the way that some of the chiropractors are saying I'm a chiropractic physician, which is maybe a little bit of a sidebar. If the degree has the word doctor in it, I don't see the problem here.
So I was asking ChatGPT yesterday, hey, what are some current affairs that might impact the PT profession, and give me some ideas for tomorrow's podcast. This article came up. Then I asked further. I said, and I remember the origins of this, which I'll bring up in a second. I said, is this going to affect all allied healthcare? Also, is it just for nurses? And ChatGPT's impression was it was pretty much just in California, just nurses, and more specifically, just in clinical settings. And it was referencing like, look, if you're in a hospital, there are people coming in and out of the room constantly. If everybody is calling themselves doctor because that's what their degree is in, then you don't know who the medical doctor is, who the MD is, or the DO, or whatever, the internist. So there were some guidelines around. It's not that you can't say you don't have a doctorate degree. You can't say I'm a doctor of nursing or physical therapy or whatever. It is kind of in very specific settings. But this goes back, and I remember this. There was a nurse who called herself doctor because she had a doctorate degree on social media, who ended up getting into, I think, legal and financial issues. Every time any of us see somebody making crazy claims on social media, we're always like, who is this? What is this? What are the credentials? Is it a chiropractor? Is it a medical doctor? Whatever. And I, for one, as a consumer of media, I want to know who's the crazy I'm listening to at this moment.
Yeah.
You know, like just because you have an MD after your name doesn't mean you're not crazy. It just
Correct.
gives me some perspective on what kind of crazy you are.
Right.
So I totally get it. Now, you, Dave, can probably make the best arguments here because I don't have a DPT and I don't think Jimmy has a DPT. I didn't know that Dave had a DPT because you never mention it. But that being said, there are some specifics around it. Yes, we've had therapists, and I've never stopped anyone from saying, hey, my name is, XYZ, I'm a doctor of physical therapy. That's fine. And we've had patients that appreciated that they were working with a doctorate level individual. But I will also say, and then I'll turn it over, I've also had patients that they were like, oh, how many weeks does it take to become a physical therapist? And then I tell them I was a personal trainer before I became a physical therapist. And they're like, what? You're a personal trainer? That's amazing. And they go crazy for it. So, it's marketing, it's branding. At the end of the day, it's just a label that could mean a lot or it could mean nothing. Jimmy, what are you thinking?
Well, Dr. McKay, actually, I do have the doctorate because I graduated in 2016 when it was mandatory. How
do I not know both of you guys have a doctorate degree?
Because we don't talk about it, because while I was in school and I graduated in 2016, I heard from the social media audience that it was imperative, that the only way we're ever going to gain respect was to use that title ad nauseum. And then I heard in the classroom from my professors at Marymount University, they were named Sky and Julie, and they had PhDs. Like my professor Sky is a PhD in biochemistry. Like that's Dr. Jones or Dr. Dre territory. That's different types of doctors there. But they were very, very insistent that we call them by their names. And they, if you wanted, so we have to go with words, and I love me some words. So number one, doctoring isn't a job. Physician is, right? So there's the disconnect. So all of a sudden we've gone Kleenex and Cadillac on the title doctor. Now, do I think a media campaign is going to change public perception of if someone says, my kid just graduated from college, she's a doctor? We tend to assume that person is in fact a physician. I get that. That's what I would assume, right? But no one has any problem when Short Round says, no time for love, Dr. Jones. And he's referring to Dr. Indiana Jones, who is an archaeologist, right? So it's funny because in some places, like Dr. Dre or Dr. Seuss or Dr. Ruth Westheimer, we've got a list of doctors everywhere. For some reason, it's okay in some contexts and not in the other. And again, I am in favor of communicating clearly, so I can see where someone's saying, hey, 39% of patients polled, no data on how many people were actually polled or in what settings or what questions they were asked, were confused. So that's why APTA goes out of their way to actually message, I am Dr. Johnson, your physical therapist. Make sure you qualify what you're actually a doctor of. Do I think it's confusing? I don't know. Yeah, a little bit. Do I think it's necessary? I don't know if it always is. If someone asks what your qualifications are, Tony just mentioned someone got super excited because they found out he's a physical therapist and he was a personal trainer before that. I think the person is always listening to see how this person, Tony, or whoever's in front of them, how is what they know going to help me? And I'll close with that famous quote. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt says, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Neither of those things are true. They don't care how much you know. They don't really care how much you care. They care, do you understand what problem I have? And are you capable of helping me solve it? I understand how using that title doctor can give you a little, puff out your chest a little bit and say I have advanced qualifications. So I get that, but you shouldn't sacrifice quality for clarity in certain situations. So I think it's nuanced. I think this conversation is going to come up over and over again, and it's never going to get solved.
The example of a hospital room where there's providers coming in and out and the patient or the family not knowing who the medical doctor is, the actual MD is ridiculous. Because in every hospital, a PA that walks in the room in a hospital, and also where I used to work, my first job was a physician in practice, outpatient ortho, and those PAs also wore white coats. They looked exactly like the physicians. So even though I just looked up that the AMA, the American Medical Association, was not a part of any of this like nurse practitioner expansion programs and all that. So like they've generally been opposed to all this the whole time across the country anyway. I thought that they were a part of it. I looked it up as we were talking ChatGPT. They've always been generally opposed to it. So then why do physicians allow PAs that are under the guidance of those physicians to walk in a room with a white coat on? And I know this for years, where the patient will say, "Oh, hey, Dr. So-and-so, hey," and the PAs do not correct the patient, the family. They do not say, "Oh, I'm a PA, I'm Steve, not Dr. Kelly," or whatever, right? Like I'm Steve, I'm the PA for. They don't correct them. Just like in physical therapy, the PTAs do not really typically, in my experience, they don't correct patients when a patient calls them their therapist, or the patient calls the PTA, "That's my PT." I don't know how it is in Tony's office, but in all the offices I've ever been, patients do not know the difference between a PT and a PTA for the most part. And so it's just the way it is, whether it's the physician, the MD and the PA, or it's an NP or a nurse practitioner. And also, by the way, as a sidebar, nurse practitioners and NPs and DNPs, I'm pretty sure both, but definitely the DNP, I'm pretty sure both though can prescribe medication. So also like they can prescribe medication. So who cares about the doctor label? They're doing some major role in the healthcare system that physicians also do, that takes a lot of training and understanding, and you have to know pharmacology and all, side effects and contraindications and all that. So it's like, who cares? Because the physicians allow the PAs to look exactly like themselves too.
I'll tell you who cares. Well, two sides. The practitioner, because we are hierarchical in this world, right?
Yep. It's just ego. It's just ego and status.
Ego.
Yeah, that's it.
Ego.
It is not about protecting the consumers at all.
It's not, but from the consumer perspective, I'll tell you, because I've gone through the healthcare system, not a lot with myself. I've been relatively healthy up to this point. With my parents, though, the question is always like, are we getting the doctor, or are we getting are we getting the second one? Are they just in their office? So it's not a knock on the person in front of you, but it's like, why am I not getting the person? Because if there's an error, I'm going to go back to this moment as the fork in the road and go, why didn't I have that other person in front of me? I'm paying the same rate, right? Wouldn't you be pissed?
It might not be the same rate. I don't know.
If you didn't get the mechanic, but you got the mechanic's assistant who went through 500 hours of training and not 10,000 hours of training, and something goes wrong with your car and you crash, you'll be like, we didn't get the assistant. That's where the thing was. So I think that's the thing for me. Both my parents were like, when the person would come in, give their spiel and leave, is that who is that? What's their qualifications? There's unclarity there, right? And the title doesn't clear it up. That's a problem for me. I won't say that's the problem, but that's a problem. We want to understand, look, now more than ever, who am I taking advice from? Well, there's a guy giving advice on medication right now that, as far as I know, has no minutes worth of medical training, but a very large podium, and just told a bunch of people that nothing bad can happen, only good can happen. Only good can happen. And he's not Yoda. It's the president of the country giving medical advice. And we're saying, okay, well, that sounds legit. That is a scary thing to happen.
Going back to one of the things that Dave said about, like, I remember this conversation happening 20 years ago, physical therapist assistant in the hospital-based outpatient, either they weren't wearing their name badge or their name badge was always flipped over. I mean, the reality is, I'll take this in two directions. From the sales and marketing perspective, why don't they correct the patient when the patient says doctor or therapist or whatever? Because you get better buy-in with some patients. So you're going to leverage the name. You're going to leverage that with the people who care about it. And there are people who care about it. Like Jimmy said, there are people who want the doctor, the medical doctor.
Right.
I'm going to say, yes, they're here in my clinic. I don't want differentiation between me and my assistant. Why don't I want differentiation between me and my assistant? Why don't I think it even matters? Because the reality is, what is being delivered, the service that is being delivered, my assistant is equally qualified, equally educated, equally licensed to deliver the intervention. Now,
after your evaluation.
I'm not going to say that he is the therapist doing an evaluation because he is not licensed to do an evaluation. There's going to be differentiation when it's the physical therapy evaluation. But when we take it to treatment, delivery of the intervention, he is equal to me in all capacities relative to education, licensure, experience, all of that kind of stuff. So it doesn't help him do his job any better if the patient thinks, oh, I'm getting a lesser person. And this goes to Jimmy's point, where the PA or the medical doctor, in what they're actually doing at the moment, they are probably equally trained and equally qualified to deliver that. So I do think that we're dealing with an uneducated population in the terminology. So of course, if I could get a premium, the highest expert in the land to paint my bathroom, I've said this before, like Pablo Picasso could come paint my bathroom, or I could get John down the street. Both of them are equally qualified to paint a bathroom. But I can't get John to paint a masterpiece that's going to hang in a museum. Like these are different things.
But you do bring up a point, which is actually the reverse, which is a lot of times you're so educated, you've gone so far up the ladder, you're so removed from doing the everyday task that a lot of times John the painter is better because Picasso's over here whining and dining people to get in the Louvre. I don't know if he was ever in the Louvre, but John's the guy doing the thing. So it might actually be reversed. You're looking for that person with the qualifications, but they've spent so much time in classrooms getting the qualifications. Maybe they're not doing stitches. So the PA next to you is actually the best person. But we are stuck on those labels because that's the only thing that's the only star we can check off. There's no other thing to Yelp people about, right? It's just, well, what are your letters after your name? Which goes back to why we chase letters after our name, because we're big, dumb animals. I mean, another major PT organization, which surfaced, and if memory serves me right, they were all about advocacy, are now releasing their own continuing education units.
Oh boy, are you serious?
Guys, the carousel.
You didn't see that?
The carousel does two things. It goes up, down, round and round. It goes up, down, round and around. This is all the same thing. This is my shocked face. We knew this was you knew this was coming.
A little bit of a quick story. A week or two ago, we took our son. He's fine, but we took him to a local urgent care. And one of the the first person that came in announced themselves as like the medical assistant. So like some subjective questions and like height and weight or whatever, like that type of stuff. Then a provider comes in. It says the provider didn't announce. They kind of mumbled their name. I think that was the first name, but it was just like one name. It'd be like Dave or Kittle. I don't. She like mumbled her. She mumbled her first or last name, but just one word. And did looking in his mouth, looking in his ears, and like kind of like an exam. Great, awesome. Like that's. And then I know we've talked about this other times. Like I'm just there for. I don't really care if it's a physician or an NP or a DNP or whatever, or I don't know, a nurse or a PA, a physician's assistant. I don't know who it is. And the badge says the woman's first and last name, and it says provider. And I'm like,
that's a weird. I hate that title, but keep going.
Yeah, I know, right? So because I'm in healthcare, and then I'm like, I asked it anyway, but I know I'm like this woman's probably going to get offended because I'm a male and she's a woman, and I'm nice. I'm not challenging what she is, but it's kind of like your company should have the NP or PA or MD, just put a couple of those letters there. I'm just curious who's looking in my son's ears. Like, I just want to know, like, hey, this is awesome. Great. There was no wait. It was a Saturday. This is awesome. You guys are, place is clean, wonderful. Everyone's smiling. I had no problems at all. I was just curious. Like, I was like, oh, hey, are you one of the physicians here or PA or NP or RN and she said a PA, but she held up her badge like it's right here, and I'm like, no, it's not right there. It says provider. But I didn't say that. But I was kind of like, I don't know. It's just like another ridiculous aspect of healthcare. Like or this, at least this company? Like, why have provider on there? Is that, again, it's so that maybe, like Tony said, like patients don't ask for the physician or the DNP, whatever, and it's, the PA or an RN or someone that's coming in to do a lot of
I'd
this
say
basic stuff.
I'd say that's more misleading than anything. I mean,
Right.
provider. I mean, geez,
Exactly.
the person
Exactly.
at the front desk can provide some things. I mean, we all provide. I get the provider payer sort of conversation. That shouldn't be in an exam room. That's a weird use of words there.
And she held up her badge like almost like, it's right here, mister. And I'm like, no, it's not there. It says provider. That
That's
could be
tricky.
anything. A
So
provider could be an RN or whatever. Yeah.
I think we agree this is never going to end. This will just, again, carousels.
So let me pose this question to you guys. Will this spread? Will the DNP? So two questions. Will the DNP being barred? Will it happen in other states? First question, and then will it eventually trickle over to PT and be barred in California or some other states? Using doctor, if you're not a physician.
It's funny because when I read this article, this was they were framing this under a First Amendment issue, which First Amendment getting a lot of press these days. It's every couple of years, the First Amendment. So what they're really doing is they're framing this as commercial speech versus First Amendment protected speech. So let's be very clear. If it's commercial speech, it's not protected under the First Amendment. So that's where I don't think it will gain legs. I don't think it'll spread to another state, and I don't think it'll spread to other professions, only because there's no money in it. Like I don't see someone like getting all in a tizzy unless it's the AMA, which did not start this. Unless it was the AMA, which to my knowledge, according to this article, weren't the ones who initiated this.
I don't know why it wouldn't gain traction, because, if you paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for those letters, you want to protect those letters. This irony in this, as we saw from Lifetime Family Fitness, we can't even protect DPT. Right? Yeah. I could be a dynamic personal trainer tomorrow. There's no lawsuits have been won. Nobody has stopped using those letters. So, I mean, this just goes back to, I understand the desire to know, who am I talking to? Who am I listening to? Where is this information coming from as a consumer? I understand the desire to protect your credential as a person who paid six figures for it. Hey, I bought this just because it's two letters. I don't want anybody else to use it. So I can see it on all fronts, but then it still goes back to society and language. It's constantly changing, constantly evolving, so at some point it's just going to be worthless to have those letters or to use that word or to do any of that stuff. So, the reason why it's still a topic is because there's still probably some inherent value, whether it's the university selling the doctorate, they want to protect the value of that six-figure education and label.
Oh, yeah.
Or it's, the business selling the impression of expertise to the consumer. And again, I say the impression because we all know plenty of doctorate level professionals who are not experts in any way. Either they've been in it too long or they haven't been in it long enough. But there's plenty of craziness and stuff going on out there.
Yeah, this is about money and ego. I mean, Lizette summarized that's a little bit of a long comment, but can we admit this is all about money and MD fears? I want to make sure I have my corner.
It's just ego and status. Respectfully, we all know physicians. We all know many of them. I have many, physician buddies and friends. Some physicians that were like I'm actually on first name basis with, like in the area. So that's pretty cool. I thought that was like refreshing. But yeah, and not all of them are like this, but there is like that whole God complex, and that they are at the highest point of the hierarchy, Jimmy, like you said. So yeah, but again, just to recap, these nurses in this article in California, as far as we know, they're not telling patients that I'm your MD. They're not telling patients I'm your medical doctor. They're saying I am Dr. Smith. I'm Dr. Johnson. So, and I agree, Tony, like I'm Dr. Kittle, your physical therapist. When I text patients, I use Dr. Dave Kittle. When I email them on my business cards, on my website, Tony, that means you haven't looked at my website, on the About Us page, all of my therapists are listed as doctor if they have a doctorate. And so, but it says doctor of physical therapy. Nowhere on any of our correspondence or anything, anywhere ever, are we saying physician, chiropractic physician, whatever that is. We're not saying MD. We're not
Yeah.
saying medical doctor.
As
We're not
as
saying
a
medical.
person-
We're not saying medical school. Nothing. Nothing to, it's very clear delineation.
Yeah, clarity should be king. I am a little bit irked about the grammar of doctor of chiropractic. It feels like there should be a word after that, like chiropractic something. Doctor of chiropractic is a title, and I'm like
that's why they call themselves some say chiropractic physicians.
Yeah, that I'm sorry, but that one feels like it's.
Is it the state that determines if they use the label physician?
Most likely.
I think so. I think so.
So that's why I think it's interesting that they that this started in California. Like, could be like a sign that they're trying to, because I think if you can get traction in California, New York, Florida, I think you might be able to challenge this other places. But did it say in the article who initiated this?
I don't know.
It just said a federal judge has ruled that.
Yeah.
So I would want to know who actually initiated this.
I'm sure the AMA dropped off a briefcase of cash to this judge. I'm half joking, half serious.
Yeah. These days, you never know.
You can't track cash. Maybe there's barcode numbers or whatever, but.
So let me pivot just a little bit. I had an interesting experience yesterday. Longtime patient. This was an individual. I've probably worked with this individual, let's say a decade now, on and off. This individual has ties to my family. We've known each other since before this person needed physical therapy. This particular individual is on a Medicare Advantage plan and had a 20 visit limit for the calendar year.
That's horrible.
Had a procedure, came to us. We did physical therapy, utilized the 20 visits. This individual continues to need therapy services. So we invited this person to our non-covered maintenance program. Some people would call it a wellness program. We're like, look, $100 a month. You come in twice a week. You have access to all the equipment. You have access to us. We'll make sure you're doing everything right. And, this was an affordable alternative option for this individual. It's not a money driver for us. We make a little bit of money. It's fine, but it's more just to keep engagement, keep the community coming. Somebody who has made the effort to get in their car and drive to our clinic. I'm never going to say you can't come because you can't afford it or your insurance doesn't cover it or whatever. So this is something we offer a lot of post-discharge patients. I got a call yesterday. This person was so upset, and I understand it. This person was like, Tony, I'm so sorry. My doctor said I have to go to their therapy. This was a local hospital doctor, and they're like, you need therapy for this other condition, and you have to come to us. I'm like, hey, that's totally fine. I totally get it. Listen, it's really not a big deal. I think it's great for patients to see other therapists. I'm sure those therapists are going to be great. I said, but I want you to understand you've exhausted your 20 visit limit for the calendar year. It's a hospital-based outpatient clinic. You are going to be charged $200 to $300 a session. She was like, I totally get it. I know, but I feel like there's nothing I can do. I was like, you always have a choice. You're free to choose, but I totally understand the pressure. Listen, don't worry about it. But I'm just curious. So what are they doing there? Well, the therapist had me sucking in my tummy and
Wait, say that again?
ankle, huh?
You cut. There was a little. What was the first thing you said?
The therapist had me sucking in my tummy and pumping my ankle and lifting my leg and bending over, but it really hurt when I did it, but I did it anyway. And so in my mind, obviously I'm thinking, okay, she's getting the standard of care. Like, she's not getting what the standard of care would consider bad therapy. It's what everybody's going to do. She's going to walk away with thousands of dollars in, bills. She could come to us here. She was doing all sorts of, function based. I've got videos, published videos of her getting on the floor, getting off the floor, doing functional transfers. There's a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm just like, once again, we talk about the power of, influence. Whoever the medical doctor is, I don't know. I have no connections to this physician, but I'm like, one thing is said, likely because they're being pressured by upper management to keep all the referrals in-house.
Right.
And now potentially this individual is going to have 5 years, 10 years of medical bills that are probably never going to get paid because they have access to me, but they think they can't come to me for $100 a month, and they're going to go to this hospital outpatient clinic where the therapist probably has no idea they're charging $300 a session. Any thoughts on that whole kind of experience?
It's a racket.
How do we change it? How do we stop it? How do we make it better?
Well, one thing that I think you floated to her, you kind of said that you always have choice.
Yeah.
I think you said to her directly. It sounds like you said to her directly.
And like I said,
don't have to go there. You can come to our clinic. You can go to some other place down the road. You have choice, but she's trusting and believing in the MD, the medical doctor here, the main physician. They're saying you have this other condition. You need this treated, and you have to go to this hospital-based practice. That is, I don't want to say it's not fraud. It's wrong. The patient has choice. The healthcare consumer has choice. They can go anywhere they want to go. They can go to a hospital-based clinic and, rack up that bill of $5,000 or whatever if they want to of their own volition. This doesn't sound like it was under her own volition. It sounded like she was pressured to do so, which is ridiculous.
The thing is, you look at the most influential people. Now, I think we probably have a different perspective on anyone in healthcare. Like I fully admit it. I am biased. You, Dave Kittle, who I respect implicitly, come to me and say, Tony, you should be doing this. I'm generally going to disagree. Like my immediate response is Dave's probably wrong. Dave doesn't understand. He doesn't know my context. He doesn't know what's going on. I'm always going to go against anyone in authority who tells me to do something just because that's my nature. I'm always going to second guess what you say until you prove that I am wrong in second guessing you. But so many of our patients are like, look, my priest and my doctor, that's who I listen to, like nobody else. And so even with our history of over a decade of working together and family connections and knowing each other, the doctor said, do this. There is no way this person's not going to do it, even if it's to their detriment, even if she gets worse, even if she has a negative experience, a negative outcome, and wastes a ton of money. She cannot go back in her mind to that doctor and say, I didn't listen to you. We don't realize the impact and the power that physicians, but even we at a certain level, have over these individuals. And it's scary. It's shockingly scary. I know I have told people things off the cuff that I thought had zero value. And years later, they come back and tell me how impactful that was, and it blew my mind.
Yeah. How would you fix it if you were in charge and you can wave a magic wand? I have an idea, but I want to hear from you guys. Well, how would you fix it?
Dave, any ideas? I have no idea. I'm out of ideas.
I was gonna say I don't know how to fix it. I think it's extremely challenging because a lot of the individuals that Tony is referring to, like it's not 20, 30-year-olds, right? It's like 50, 60, 70, 80. And the older the individual is, in my opinion, the more likely they are to like just bow and listen and do whatever the physician says, regardless. Like, oh, I need a new statin. I need a new statin. I got to get it on a new statin. And like no pushback, no research, no, let me try to change my diet and exercise. And let me, just like I will do that. Like it's very robotic for the older population. And I think the opposite for the 20, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds that are like questioning. So they're like Tony, Tony's, a little bit older than that, but Tony still has like that younger mindset of like questioning and pushing back, and I'm the same way. And so I don't know if there's any way to change it, but the younger population, the younger generation now will continue to be that way. They're going to question things. They're going to do research. They're going to ask friends and colleagues. And do you know a physician or a physical therapist to speak with? And there's just more. I don't know if it's because of social media or the internet or YouTube or just available information that's readily accessible anywhere. The younger population is more likely to challenge things, even, push back a little bit, or, do some other research before they make a decision. Whereas someone who's 60, 70, 80, 90 is not going to do any of that stuff. It's just like, oh, I heard it. I heard this. This is it. I'm taking it basically as gospel, and there is no pushback.
Yeah, the example that I thought of is I just got a new car a couple months ago, and it's really cool on the inside. Looks really slick. It's Toyota Camry hybrid, in case you guys were wondering. But I'm not much of an aesthetic guy, but there's part of the inside of that car that is absolutely ruined, and it's the part of the visor that shows, and there's a warning on it. It's not a sticker. I can't pull it off. Like, I saw the warning, got it, can't pull. It is painted on there. I have no idea what it's even about. Probably airbags or wear your seatbelt, or I don't know, but it's printed on there. Do you, Tony, have to have signs posted in the break room at your clinic? Things about like FMLA or FSLA or EEO?
Yeah, I'm looking across it right in front of me right now, and there's all these Ohio labor, federal posting requirements, all this garbage.
So if this really was an issue, if this was important, so it sounds like if I get a referral from the hospital, I just have to go to the outpatient. They said, go talk to Karen down the hall, and you just feel like you're ushered down the hall. I feel like you should have to be given a yellow piece of paper that says, stop. These are your rights. And I know hospitals give you, probably they participate in a little bit of what's called malicious compliance, right? Well, I have to give you some paperwork. So I'm going to give you 72 pages of paperwork. So I'm going to dilute everything that you have to do. But if we said you have to post this poster, this has to be handed in card form to every single person you're going to give a referral to the 10 commandments of your rights as a patient. You do not have to actually go to where this place is. You can, but you don't have to. If it was that big of a problem, that's the thing I would march to Washington and say, if I were a profession, we're getting smoked. I mean, Tony's idea the other day was, you know what? Just let them have it. Let them have that. We'll do everything else, right? I understand that. Never retreat, never leave a man behind. Well, no, sometimes they leave men behind. Sometimes you retreat to fight another day, or this isn't the hill I want to die on. So if this was actually important, either do something about it big enough to make change or don't. So that would be my simple but not easy solution, which is someone's going to write that letter of the law, and it has to be handed out. And if not, there's a fine. There's got to be some sort of consequences for not doing it.
I'm going to go a different direction, but real quick, Ray's here, Steven's here, Will Boyd was here earlier. Okay, I'm going to go a different direction though, because like you just said, you have that massive warning over your visor. You don't even know what it says. I've got employment records on the wall. Nobody who works for me knows what they are. Going to the government once again to protect, it never works. It never works. The same doctor, I would bet the same doctor who said you have to go to our physical therapy clinic probably said you shouldn't eat McDonald's, and yet the consumer will continue to eat McDonald's. Shout out to my McCafe, right? It's not about forcing people to do something. It's about finding the motivation that makes them choose to do what they want to do ultimately. Why is she going to therapy there? Not because she wants to go to therapy there, not because the doctor is forcing her as much as she wants to please the doctor. There's an inherent, I want to get affirmation from you, doctor, to tell me that I'm doing the right thing. So I think the way you change that is direct to consumer marketing. This is where you get the messaging in hand. You sacrifice the label of physical therapy, which who even cares anymore? Those words have very little value in today's market, especially if we're talking outpatient orthopedic. And we pivot to what are the things these consumers are buying anyway? What are the things that they want? What are the things that they desire? Let's bring that out. Let's develop and harness that. And then I think it doesn't matter what the doctor says. It doesn't matter if they're going to therapy at the other place. I've had plenty of patients that go to therapy at one place and then come to me because they want what I have. They know that I can make them feel good, And so I don't think government intervention is going to do anything to fix a problem like that. The law already exists that you have to give patients choice. They don't do it. There's all these laws on the books that are pretty much useless. I think you have to get the patient to want to come to you, however you do that. But I think it's marketing.
The handout, Jimmy, I love the idea, but also the incentives and the money with these health systems, with these hospital systems, and the AMA, the American Medical Association, like all that in terms of, I mean, they would just block it. They would just block it, like to make that. They would figure out ways to have lobbying and just block that. I mean, that would be a great start. But then to push back a little bit on Tony's thing, like, yes, there's some of those patients that want to just please the physician. They want to do whatever they say. But again, that's kind of what I was saying. Like many of them, that's just the way they've been raised, and like that's what their parents did, and their parents did, and that's just the way it has always been. And so, yeah, overall, like at the end of the day, I think it's a shame. It's a shame that these physicians are not being clear and truthful to these patients and saying that you actually have choice. You can go to our physician-owned practice or our hospital-based practice that's, right here attached to our hospital. Or you can also go to Total Therapy Solutions down the road and, also have a great experience, and they'll take your insurance unless you use your 20 Medicare Advantage plans visits for the year, then whatever. So I don't know. It's just a shame that when there's some of this money and incentives involved, that they're not gonna say that. They're not gonna tell the patient. They're not going to disclose something to them. Now, here's the question, real quick, Tony. If that physician instead said to your patient, "You have a choice. You have this other condition." Oh, and she tells the physician that my therapist, Tony Maritato, says that, I can continue to come out of pocket and go there and do my therapeutic exercise or whatever, because I already burned up my 20 Medicare Advantage visits for the calendar year. If that physician had said to her, "Oh, that's awesome. I know him," or "I don't know him," or whatever, you have the option. You could also, you could go to our hospital-based clinic, outpatient clinic, for this other condition and be treated there. Or you could also stay there with him, or you could go to some other clinic, any other clinic down the road. I think you just need movement. You need some physical therapy or supervision by a physical therapist or whatever. If that physician had said that to her, you knowing her, would she still be in your practice, or would she be going to the outpatient?
1,000%.
So that's a shame, right? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. But even on that front, and I'm sure you guys have seen it too, like I've seen the shift in physician culture. I've seen the shift in referrals. 25 years ago when we started, like we were getting all of the referrals with very specific, you're going to do this and you're going to do that and you're going to do, they would tell us what to do. And talking to, they were old physicians back then. Many of them probably aren't alive anymore, but talking to them, the culture and the mindset of the doctor was, I am the doctor. This is what the therapist does. You do what I tell you to do. Now, as that culture has shifted out, I talk to a lot of younger MDs, younger than me, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are professional. You know what to do. I worked with a lot of great therapists during my rotations, and you guys know more than me when it comes to this and that. You guys take the reins." So I do see a shift within the mindset and the culture of the medical doctor and how they view themselves on a team approach. And I think it's positive. I think it's positive for all allied healthcare, not just us. But so maybe I would revise my thing from saying, okay, direct to consumer marketing to, we also have an element of marketing to physicians and student physicians, residents, and letting them know and see and understand kind of what our role in the ecosystem is.
And being collaborative. Like did I tell you, Tony, that I was it a week or two ago, I went with one of the only patients that I'm seeing, and I took him to a pain ortho physician, non-surgical physiatrist, and I went to
Yeah.
the visit. I went to the visit. I didn't tell you guys this.
No, I don't think
Oh,
so.
I totally forgot to tell you. And went and I did my Tony Maritato. I got the patient's permission ahead of time. I even told the physician, texted the physician, hey, he already knew I was sending this patient to him, and I just want to get his permission, just because I haven't done it before, and I just
Yeah.
whatever. I'm just like, let me run this by you, if that's cool. The patient already gave permission, and so it was great. So like that, like I know you've been doing that, Tony, for years, but more collaboration now, less of the top-down hierarchy, and the all-knowing, all-being, physician from 50 plus years ago.
So how'd it go? Tell us about it. We have a couple minutes.
Yeah, well, he gave maybe 20 or something minutes in terms of, in the exam room and all that. So that was great in terms of time, 20 minutes, maybe even 25 minutes. It was great in terms of time. Um, we did have to wait like an hour, and I said to my patient, now the patient I have a great rapport with because I've been treating him for like a year and a half with a, neuro situation. And I said, should I go outside? Like, I think, like, is it possible that they forgot us? And he said, if my wife was here, she would have already been outside. I was like, oh man, yeah. So, but no, he came in, it went well. And also going through the exam and the subjective, and uh, in the middle, and then towards the end, the physician was kind of turning to me after I gave some subjective in the beginning, but then in terms of the plan and setting up imaging and going from there, the physician was turning to me and was kind of like, is that what you guys were kind of looking for? Like, any other questions? Is there anything else I can help you with? Or like, are we on the same page here? And I'm like, yeah, totally. That exactly what I wanted. Like, he's got, multiple orthopedic issues on top of a neurological, condition. So there's a lot going on here. And that's why I was referring him to you. So yes, we're on the same page, and everything that you mentioned in terms of potential next steps, like right on the same page, exactly what we're looking for. So then he kind of looped me back into this three-way conversation between he and I and the patient right there in the office. So it went well. And we'll see, how many more of those I can do. But I did message you guys because I did say about the weight, and you
I
said
remember now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So historically, you said, you got to be prepared for, like a 2 or 3 hour window sometimes with like the whole experience. So it's all good, just like building relationships. And but that's kind of where I'm at in terms of physician marketing and that whole, collaborative approach, which again, I would never, I don't think I would do it, historically, but now I'm doing it more as I kind of see the vibe of other physicians and, things that work. So it was just part of like the marketing strategy and just, again, building relationships.
So again, this is, Dana Strauss and value-based care and having a seat at the table. And there's different approaches to how we get there. You can go the route of, I don't even know. I don't know what everybody else is doing. When I want a seat at the table, when I want to build a relationship, we used to bring lunch in or breakfast for the entire office. We'd get a couple minutes. We were a nuisance to the medical practice. Nobody wanted to deal with us. But now I go with my patient. I haven't done it in a couple of years, but still the opportunity is there. You go there and you sit down. The doctor's getting paid for that time. I'm representing the patient. I'm saving the physician some time. I'm communicating. I'm building a rapport. I'm making the connection. And once you do it a couple of times, they get to know you on a personal level. Here, where we are, the doctors still will very, very rarely send me patients in Middletown. Now, Middletown is about 5 miles up the road from where I am right now. Right now, I'm in Monroe. But every single patient in Monroe comes to me, and that is because those doctors know me on a personal level. We have a relationship. We've talked to each other. We kind of have a sense for what we're doing and who we are. The only way I could build that is by attending those follow-up visits with my patients. And the docs who don't want to do it, they're not going to do it, but it doesn't matter. Just like any other networking, there's people you connect with and people you don't. So yeah, I just think it's such a missed opportunity for so many. And I would say it's really should be a paid opportunity. I don't know if you did it, but for other therapists listening, like it should be a paid session. It's not covered by insurance. It should be paid out of pocket. I bet the family would be willing to pay to send you, somebody the patient knows, likes, and trusts, to be there as a representative. Jimmy, you've been in that world with your dad. Like having somebody who understands the system, speaks the language, being there with somebody you care about, probably more impactful than, you know, a spouse being there who doesn't know what to do.
3 things: time, money, headache, and averting crisis. I mean, I have someone. I have a former nurse who's a medical advocate, a nursing advocate, geriatric advocate. Like, you know how many times that I've been like, should I bring my dad to the doctor, the urgent care, the emergency room, or wait? And she'll ask me 2 or 3 questions and then say, it's my recommendation that you do this. And I'm like, great. Like, but I can go around with her. I can say like, well, I don't understand that. Can you explain it? She's like, sure. I will. Do you want me to explain it now? Do you want me to write it down? And I'm like, sure. Like, just explain it to me now. Like, time, effort, money, pain, and averting crisis. Like, these things are valuable. So this goes back to a conversation I was just having with someone the other day. We typically devalue the things we know because they're easy. We know them. Even someone stupid like me knows that. Everybody must know it. So we devalue what we know. But I look at my buddy who I reference him a lot down the street, who's a mechanic. I'm like, you're like a wizard, man. I don't know how to make the car stop doing the noise and make sure it's safe to drive. I have no idea. I could not begin to. We watch a YouTube video. It's easy. I'm like, I don't even know what parts you're talking about, man. I wouldn't even begin to scratch the surface. I wouldn't even open the textbook. That's valuable. That's why people pay for that. So yes, it is of value.
What I think is interesting there is you said medical advocate, and then you said nurse. And so if you had originally, and both would do the same thing. I think any nurse that you hired would function as a medical advocate. But as soon as you say the words medical advocate, the consumer is like, yes, that's exactly what I need. I don't need another nurse. I've got a nurse. I need a medical advocate. I need somebody who's going to advocate for me, be on my side, be my representative, speak the language, and fight for what, you know, I need. So once again, that name, that word, that sound coming out of your mouth has significantly higher value in the context of what the consumer believes they need than just saying nurse, even though technically I would imagine anybody in the world can hang a shingle saying medical advocate.
Correct.
But you have to go through extensive training and education and licensure to hang a shingle that says nurse.
Right. So she did both. She was a nurse for 20 something years in a bunch of different settings. And then she's like, now I want to do this. So she's, you know, her pitch, essentially a family member found her for me online. The pitch was, I've been that provider and I know how people can get lost. And I sort of know how to cut through the BS. She's annoying at hospitals, not to me.
Yeah.
No, I need this paperwork. We'll get it to you. I'm not leaving until this is his right. He has a right to have this paperwork. We will not leave. Oh, what's your supervisor? What's your name? I'm going to write down that we can't, it's 9/24. We requested it, and I'll write down when we get it. And I get to just be guy in the corner who's just like, hey, Dad, let's watch the Yankee game on TV while we're in the emergency room. So was it valuable? Hell yeah.
Yeah. Let's think about parting shots. I don't know if you guys caught it over the weekend. The Mets went down in a blaze of glory, and the Reds
the Reds are in. The Reds are in, baby. Congratulations.
I don't know what's going to happen against the Dodgers tomorrow night. I think it's tonight. That could get ugly, but hey, we're going to celebrate while we can.
Good for you.
That was my parting shot. What do you guys got?
Other than Go Phillies, we got the 2 seed first round bye. Other than Go Phillies, just going back to the whole this whole shenanigans. I think this whole topic is just crazy that we just covered today. And so, if I don't know if there's NPs and PAs that have their their name badge and they're displaying it, and then like Tony said, they're not flipping it around, they're not hiding it. Just do the right thing. Like I don't see how anything could be misleading or misrepresentation or whatever. And also, I don't know. Like I'm not sure if it'll make that big of a difference either way, but patients are definitely influenced and sometimes positively surprised when I hear that we have doctors of physical therapy. Like I mention it, I don't like sell it hard, but like I think it's cool to mention because that's what my diploma says. That's what I got licensed, with and all that. So like, why wouldn't I use it in like the most respectful way? And we're not saying physician or medical doctor or anything like that. So hopefully this is not an ongoing trend with like other states barring nurses from doing, saying doctor if they're DNP or NP or whatever. Because if that's the case, then it could certainly trickle down or trickle over to physical therapists as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'd say in the end, clarity wins. The person who is most clear wins. And I know if you're saying, hey, the AMA is doing this because of hierarchy and ego, don't do the same thing. Aim for clarity, and I think you don't miss. I think people want to default to like, I need to win every single conversation and argument. You never win every single conversation and argument. I think the person who communicates clearly, concisely, consistently is the one who wins, but you have to decide what winning looks like. All right, gentlemen.
Right on. Love it.
Have a great week. We'll see you back on Thursday. I'm sure something insane will happen in the healthcare world, in our profession, between now and Thursday for us to discuss. But if you have any topic suggestions, feel free to hit us up online and we will bring it to the show.